Open up your eyes, Redacre, and slip on those bunny slippers, because tonight you're going to follow us down into the depths of the barracks. We're going to roast marshmallows, open up some pops of can, untie our loyal friends, and tie up our disloyal friends. Because remember, kids, they're useless as a sacrifice to in her teeth if they can't talk. So make sure you tie those friendship bracelets around the wrist and not the mouth. My name is Lavanya.
And I'm Astro.
And we are your hosts for tonight.
This is a Blackout Club show for Blackout Club players with no speculation or as little speculation as we can manage, all lore with a focus on known facts. Our topic of the day is the story so far, so we'll be talking about the prologue more, and we'll be talking about how it plays into the main game and the things that you see while you're in the game and the things that you hear while you're playing.
So our content warnings for this time around are just a general horror warning, same as always. This episode will explicitly discuss children being harmed and or kidnapped. So prepare yourself for that. And here's your general warning for this episode that, as with everything with the Dreaming Prophet, it is not spoiler free.
When you open up the Blackout Club for the first time, you're prompted to play the prologue, and the prologue introduces you to a lot of the main themes of the game, which Lavanya talked about in our first episode. The prologue follows a girl named Bells, or her legal name Isabella Maddie Shaw. She is a teen who is grounded. She's been left home alone while her parents are out, and we later see them in a video call at a restaurant. However, while she's at home, strange things start happening. Now, Bells is part of what's called the Blackout Club, for which the game is named. But the Blackout Club we know now is not the Blackout Club as it originally was. The original Blackout Club was a place for kids to talk about their strange experiences. There was no spy investigation. There was no recording of evidence. This was before all of that.
As Astro was saying, the kids in the Blackout Club prior to the prologue just did a whole bunch of normal club things. They hung around in an abandoned train car out in the woods, practiced parkour, and apparently recorded their parents behaving in all sorts of deviant and interesting ways. Just, normal Virginia things.
Belle realizes that something has to be done. This is too much. It's something that the world has to find out about because she realizes this isn't something she can handle by herself. It's not something the kids in Redacre can handle by themselves. It's something much bigger and much more terrifying than they ever could have imagined. Bells has successfully recorded something about the cult. We don't know what, but we do know that she keeps it on a flash drive, and she's planning at the start of the prologue to steal her parents' car and drive the flash drive far enough outside of Redacre that she can get signal and send it to someone, put it somewhere on the internet so that everyone will know. But she's acting alone because, as she says, kids her age are cowards. The other members of the club aren't willing to do the things that she's willing to do, but she knows she doesn't have a choice.
Which is actually fascinating in a way, because Bells is the only member of the Blackout Club at the very beginning in the prologue that we know who's actually performing illegal activities in pursuit of this knowledge. And as we find out from the intro, she breaks into Core's headquarters specifically to record whatever she finds on her flash drive.
She gets a call from her parents telling her that she'll meet someone as special as she is if she closes her eyes. And as it turns out, when she closes her eyes, someone starts to speak to her. Now, we don't know who, because they don't do us the courtesy of introducing themselves. But we do know that whoever is speaking to her is what we consider a voice. A voice is one of the main gods, the daemons, of this game. One of them is speaking to her and giving her instructions. It asks her to feed it with images, pictures of herself and her family. Your next task is to go around the house and find images of yourself, of your mother, of your father, and close your eyes in front of them. And every time you do, you get new and stranger messages from this voice. And then everything goes wild. You wake up again, and you're in your bed, but this time the lights are broken. This time you're covered in dirt and possibly blood, and you have your phone and your flash drive, but nothing is the same as it was. And you begin to be chased by the Shape. The Shape is one of the main antagonists of the game. You've probably encountered them. You can only see them when you close your eyes.
While they're invisible to open eyes, you can actually see the shadow of the shape whenever he is exiting the shape doors and whenever he is walking in front of lighting. So in the prologue, you can see him in front of the windows.
The shape chases Bells through her house and down into her basement, where she finds a secret passage that takes her into the maze. And what she finds in the maze is that she's been tracked by Chorus this whole time. They've taken a layout of her home, put it on the ground, and tracked her movements with red string.
It's like the red string of fate, but a little less weeb and a little more serial killery.
Now, interesting again, while she's in the maze, another voice tries to help her escape. We know that there's a difference between these two voices because the way that they present themselves is different. The first voice speaks in capital letters, all capital letters, but the second voice speaks in normal case. Interesting. We don't know what this means, but we do know that there's a difference between the voices. Bells makes it through the underground with the help of this voice, but just as she almost gets to the boxcar, something grabs her and pulls her away. Again, we don't have a lot of details about this. In the past, in the main games, when you get dragged, you're either being dragged by an adult or by the shape. But when Bells gets dragged, we see neither of them.
Alright, so that leads us off into the main game. One of the most interesting things about the main game is that you do not get information fed to you directly. You basically have to collect it from a bunch of different sources and try to piece together the story from all of that. Belle's story begins in the prologue, and it continues mildly as a mystery throughout the main game. What we know from journal entries is that Belle's mother is a lucid, and that Belle, as she said in the prologue, had previously broken into horse industries. When she did that, we don't know exactly what she was going for from the information we're given, but we do know that she accessed saturation control, a special area that players can sometimes be sent to when they are being punished by Speak as One, and she released something from it. Or she released several somethings because there's a description of several footsteps leaving the area afterwards. We also know that Bells, at the point that the prologue has occurred and the point that the players are in the main game, she's been out to the maze several fucking times. She has 2 sets of information that's been recorded. One we're not given the details on, except that it's damning enough that it has Chorus and Speak as One deeply worried about it being released. The second is that she captured actual footage of the instrument being tuned by the various hosts that serve as the enemies throughout the game. And also that somehow she caught footage of the song itself, which is the soundtrack that you will constantly hear in the background as you're playing. Bells, we never find out exactly what happens to Bells. Now, that may change in 1.0, but we're just going to have to see. As of right now, it's a whole fucking lot of ambiguity, apparently, because the posters that you can see around the town as evidence posters have pictures of Bells, and they say, missing child, we're looking for any information on her, please let us know. They're all course approved. They are put up and they are created by the Speak as One followers, essentially. So that insinuates maybe they don't have her. Except if you listen to the lucid voice lines, then occasionally as you're stalking them around, they will drop this particular one, which implies otherwise.
Think aloud. Think aloud with the voice. Well, that girl, that Isabella, they say that the shape you can't see got her. I wonder what it does to them.
If you go into the clubhouse, you can see what the overall community outside of the crazy corporation cult has decided, which is mostly everyone thinks that Bells has either ran away or else she's committed suicide. If you go over to the television, you can see 4 different interviews, depending on what level you are. By the time you hit level 20, you'll have 4. 4 different interviews with her parents that are all begging for information, saying that she'd never run away and saying that she didn't commit suicide. These become more interesting when you consider, per the journal entries, her mother is lucid, so her mother is in on all of this. If you go over to the court board, you can see that there's bits cut off of newspapers saying that a search was going on for her and that she was eventually dismissed as being a suicide. Is it true? Is Bells alive? Is Bells dead? We have no fucking clue. Even the voices don't know from in-game interactions. Maybe we'll find out, but maybe this is just going to be one of the big mysteries of the Blackout Club.
So with this mystery at hand, the club has become dedicated to not only continuing her mission, but hopefully finding her. We have a journal entry in the boxcar entitled Bells Has Gone Missing, and it begins alert to all Blackout Club members, then proceeds to ask us to continue looking for Bells, to find her, to do something. There's clearly an attitude of desperation and wanting to help. The message is signed the TBC OGs, or originals, which we can infer to mean or include our two main club NPCs, Dax and Gwen. When you end the prologue, Dax and Gwen both make a pact, eventually, to try to do something more to help Redacre and hopefully help Bells too. Dax doesn't think Bells is dead. Gwen is fairly convinced. In their continuing quest, we hear about Dax and Gwen every so often. As you continue playing through the game, you hear about Dax and Gwen every so often. Dax, for instance, made the drone that you have to fix during a mission. Gwen refers to it as Dax's barely functional sky friend. Gwen then transcribes the papers that you get from that mission that you can then view as journal entries in the boxcar. The Whisper Twins are also part of the club. They were added in a more recent update. The Whisper Twins are two children that lean against the sides of the boxcar. As you're going into the sleeper car, you can find them on your left. And they occasionally talk about lore, just trying to process what's going on in the world around them.
So that's some of the ways that you can get information out of the game. And that is basically our human cast of it. That is not the only cast, though, and it can be argued that is not even the primary cast. The major characters of the game, in terms of NPCs, are actually the daemons, who are referred to alternatively as voices and as gods throughout the games. Basically, these are voices that exist inside of your head. Sometimes when you close your eyes, you'll see letters forming in front of your eyes that will tell you what they're saying. Sometimes when you are just minding your own business, sitting in a tree, trying to throw foam grenades down at the Lucids, you'll hear a voice in your ears, and that is also the daemons. What they are functionally is concepts and creatures that are created off of human thoughts. We don't know the exact process yet. We don't even know if that's true, because as the daemons are so fond of reminding us, they're all compulsive liars. But that's what they've claimed. These daemons provide us with information about the game world, about each other, and about what we should be doing. What information you get will depend on what daemon you're talking to, and some daemons are easier to speak to than others. Speak as one is one of the hardest daemons to speak to in terms of actually getting a positive relationship with them. The idea is one of the easiest daemons to speak to.
Because what's more rebellious than a bunch of teenagers?
Exactly. He craves that teenage fire, that youthful rebellion that encourages you to flip cars and steal your parents' keys. There are other voices, but we'll get into that more in the next episode, which will be digging into all of the gods. So make sure you listen.
More on this after a word from our sponsors.
What do you have in your house that can cushion dangerous impacts, silence pesky noises, and even help you shave? Why, nothing? Then you need to try our handy-dandy foam canisters. Containing 16 square feet of high-grade foam, these canisters are a must-have for anybody's daily life. Trouble shutting down a neighbor's nosy drone? Toss a foam canister. Need to jump down a dangerous ledge? Toss a foam canister. Chasing down a pesky kid that broke into your house in the middle of the night? Why, toss a foam canister. Call today for our buy 10, get 2 free special.
When children in Redacre are born, they're all assigned by Watchers, which is basically a CIA agent in your brain that works for Species 1. But as you get older, you will slowly learn your rights as an individual and begin learning how to shut the door in the face of that Watcher and all the other voices. As kids hit adulthood in that magical age of 15 for some reason, they will move from being able to hear every voice to being able to hear only one. And as the Whisper Twins say in game,
eventually I think we have to pick one. Or it picks us.
if you don't choose one, one of the voices will choose you.
Daemons are able to speak to us as humans, but they aren't able to influence us. They're not able to act on their own. They rely on us to be their vessels in the human world. In Her Teeth could ask you to sacrifice a stalker to her, but In Her Teeth couldn't hunt down the stalker herself. And she also can't throw a car at you if you refuse. The Shape is one exception to this. We don't know if he's a voice, we don't know if he's some kind of ghost, but we do know that he has a physical presence throughout the game without appearing as a human while being invisible. He's capable of casting shadows, opening doors, and affecting the environment around him, but it's unclear why he has that ability.
One of the few things that we do know 100% about the Shape from various talks, from Dance For Us, from the Measure Cuts, I believe even once from the Idea back when he was in his troubled, garbled stage, is the fact the Shape is functionally a tool of Speak as One. Speak as One is the antagonist of the game, and not to speculate because this is pure fact, but unabashedly, they are simply the best god of them all. So take a note on that.
Save it for the advertisements.
So, ignoring the pushback in the background from the haters, Speak as One uses they, them, he, his, and she, her. You cannot misgender Speak as One because the neatest thing about them is they're literally everyone. They're your grandma, they're your dad, they're your aunt, they're that cousin that you don't talk to and you don't make eye contact with at the family reunions. They're everyone in the town of Redacre. Because effectively, Speak as One is Redacre. As far as we know, going by what the daemons have implied in the persistent use of mother, father, or parent, all of the known daemons spawned off of them. Are they the first daemon out there, period? We have no idea. But we know that all of our main cast of daemons that currently exist, from Dances For Us to the Measure Cuts, all came off of Speak as One. They control the cult, they control Course, they control all of Redacre. If you listen to the Lucid lines, you can hear that they have been around since at least the 90s. And if you listen to the Sleeper lines as they're walking around, you can hear that they may have even have been around since time immemorial, back when humans still lived in caves and were painting on the walls. What's fascinating about Speak as One is all of the other gods have complicated moral beliefs and everything else that we will be getting into, as said before, in a future podcast. But Speak as One is pretty much straightforward as the antagonist of the game, as they enjoy saying constantly. Speak as One is not only their name, but it is a command. You are meant to speak as one every single time that they talk to you. Few succeed. Fewer want to succeed. But you know the intent is there. Somehow, Speak as One is linked into the song. Maybe it is the song. Maybe the song is a byproduct of it in the same way that the Shape is. It's unclear. And the division is not, if there is a division, is not explicitly stated. What we know is that the song has existed constantly, in that some people in the town of Redacre can hear it, and some of them just fucking can't.
Report. The song is weak here. Some of her fellows might not hear the call. She will make a note to test acoustics.
It's amplified by the instrument, and the maze, the primary dungeon of the game, exists to hold it. So when you see sleepers walking around welding, or you see the areas like new growth with new construction, or else you see the lines being plucked and that horrifying music come out of it, that's all the song. We don't know what exactly the song is or how it works. There's some implications in game which you can get from some of the voice lines, such as this one.
Dream, he is 18, like diving with mom. Air tanks all wrong, too much O2. His head lighter. Behold, Leviathan, the beast of us, the whole town. The arms of an octopus made of people, our whole lives like time lapse, all human choices. Everywhere we've been or will go, stretched into a rope of flesh from birth to death. The boy, his mother, of the divers for weeks, months, years back, arms, legs, heads all blend, all writhe, but the eyes turn to stare back. They see him even now.
But one of the few concrete things that we do know about the song is that somehow it is linked into the Shape as well as Speak as One. When the Shape captures you, on-screen text states that you have joined the song. When you are freed from it by one of your teammates, it states that The shape has noticed your absence from it. And when you're all the way on your last strike, the game will warn you by stating that the shape will no longer add you to the song. If he grabs you at that point, he will not just mind wipe you and forcibly mind meld you into whatever eldritch shit is going on there. He will just fucking murder you. So there's some hints, but it's a little bit foggy still.
And what does the song sound like? Well, it sounds like music, and music is played on an instrument. The maze contains what's called the instrument, which is a massive system of tunnels and strings and machinery that creates the sound that we might call the song, or at least part of the song. And the song can be heard from all across the map. You hear it better when you're underground, but you can hear it above ground too. And it seems to have multiple uses. In addition to uniting everyone, it seems to be capable of transferring information across long distances. You can watch as Lucids standing at control panels receive calls from their dispatcher and then play particular notes on their keyboard to make very specific sounds. And if you're very lucky, you can watch one Lucid report on their phone, and then a few moments later, watch another Lucid seem to get this report and transfer it into the song. We've also seen in the Maddie Shaw logs in the journals that Cordis performance encode information they receive into the song. One of the missions that you can be assigned during the games is to temporarily silence parts of the instrument. The instrument is far-reaching, and getting to all parts of it is very dangerous, but you can silence a few key points on it that seems to interfere with the way it works. Now, it's only temporary because on your next mission, you will find that all of your dampeners are gone, but for the moment, it's a band-aid on the cut.
That's the basic gist of the lore in the game. But if you want to find more in game, which you should because there's always new stuff being unlocked, and there's a whole lot to dig into, then here's some of the places to find it. It's pretty spread out, but one of the main satisfying things of the Blackout Club, at least for me, is the fact that everyone finds things in different orders as a result. And one of the most exciting things about people finding things out of order is that can affect the conclusions that they draw so much. The Blackout Club is very great for theories, coming up with your ideas, and seeing what sticks or what is going to be violently beaten like a piñata by the developers as soon as new talks come out. I say this from experience. You'll cry, but you'll feel satisfied when your ideas are smashed to pieces. And with that in mind, one of the best things that you can do is talk to other players because everyone has different ideas of how the gods are, how they operate, what their personalities are even, because there's so much that you can draw from very little information just because of the way that it's dispersed. Players frequently love discussing their ideas, their thoughts, and their theories with new people and with other players in general. And one of the most exciting things about talking to the other players and trying to put together your ideas and form new ones is each player may have experiences, courtesy of the god encounters in game, that other players don't. The gods do lie. They do tell players what they think that the players want to hear and what will get their goals achieved. So just because you heard it from one person doesn't mean that you shouldn't source and fact check. And on that note, god encounters are one of the best and one of the most exciting ways to get information in game. You're not always guaranteed that this information will be correct and accurate because each of the gods is their own individual character with their own agendas and their own take on you. They also each have their own individual relationship with different players, which means that the information will change sometimes depending on whether or not that will achieve their goals. It's a lot of fun. You can ask so many questions, and just the responses and reactions that you'll get can be sometimes be even more telling than the information they choose to share. God encounters, you can tell if one is going to happen because you will see a giant closing eye on your screen. If you see that, go ahead and close your eyes. If you see that, it's also a good idea to go sit somewhere quiet and hold still. I fail at this every single time. Don't be like me and jump off dream therapy because you're so excited to be speaking to SAO. They will not be impressed.
While you're shaped, you won't be able to see the replies that the gods are giving you, so it's very important to avoid being shaped during that time.
Yes, it is very important. And if you are shaped and you're talking with SAO, just remember to have your teammates ask politely and kindly, like good children, if they may retrieve you from the song first, or else they'll get real pissed. I don't say this from experience. The other, much rarer encounters, sometimes you won't get a god eye, but there's still something off about your game. This is usually the voiced god encounters. What will happen if you have a voiced god in your game is that the mission objective up in the top corner will change. It will no longer say your mission. It should be something like, listen, or everything is fine. It's very ominous. You will see it immediately, and you will probably feel very stressed. But don't worry, it'll probably all be fine. Maybe. When you're in-game and performing missions, what you should always do in order to get more lore is go ahead and press tab or select or whatever your key binding is for the menu and read the mission objectives in the corner. Usually this has information on the mission and general lore details on what you're supposed to be doing. For example, you can find out by pressing tab that sleepers are controlled by lights. What are you going to do with this information? I don't know, that's up to you, but it's there. Collect bonus evidence throughout the missions in order to get more snacks, so you can get that cool punk jeans that you've been coveting for years, but also so that you can unlock journal entries. Journal entries have a shit ton of lore, and usually this lore is stuff that makes sure that you fill up your journal. Accessible in the rest of the game. So make sure that you are collecting at least some bonus evidence every round, just so that you can make sure that you fill up your journal. You can tell when you have a new journal entry because the laptop screen will be glowing. This signifies new entries, so go ahead and check. Other methods are the TV. You can watch the TV recordings as they come out, which I mentioned back in the Bell section. So at level 20, there's 4, and you'll access more with each level that you gain. The Whisper Twins are always an option, as discussed above. You can listen to the enemy voice line, and you can listen to dreams. Right now, we currently have a muffler that plays when you're in a dream, so you can't hear the other players. But it's generally polite to stay quiet after returning to the boxcar, just to make sure you won't accidentally clip over the dream text or something else. Dreams are the primary way that people are able to interact with the voice god. Voice god encounters are pretty rare, but dreams are more common. And even if you don't personally have your dream answered, which is pretty rare all things considered, you will still get semi-frequent dreams which will update you on lore, or at least give you a chunk of the god in question's personality, which is always good and illuminating in terms of their overall perspective. And finally, you can send prayers. Talk to the gods and they just might answer. Keep in mind, if you fuck up your prayers, speaking from experience here, you can back off of the square and it will reset it.
Don't open your eyes.
Do not open your eyes. Do not open your eyes. That's how I sent a fuck bomb of epic proportion to speak as one, which did not endear me. Don't do that. Don't talk to your mother father like that, kids. It's just wrong.
Even though we try to keep this podcast as close to lore as possible, because of the disparate nature of the information in the game, there are some things that we just can't help. We have to infer some things. We have to take guesses in order to present the information to you in a comprehensive way. So there's some inherent bias in what we're saying here, but we are trying as much as we can to stick just to the facts. With that in mind, make your own interpretations based on what we're saying. Look for information yourself. It's all in the game. You can find it yourself. Ask questions. Talk to people.
Definitely talk to people. Keep in mind, one of the key themes of the game is friendship. So go out there and be your sunniest, friendliest self.
The Blackout Club is made by Question Games. Our advertising director is Bellamy. Our transcript is by Lavanya. Audio editing is by me, Astro. Xaviul is Updog.